All right, welcome. We are live. This is the Client Alchemy Show, episode number 1. My name is Dove Gordon, and you can find us at dovegordon.net, dovegordon.net. And you can also find us at facebook.com/consistent flow of clients. This is episode number 1 of a new show, an experiment, something that we'll definitely committed to 4, 5, or 6 of these. And we'll see how that goes. Perhaps we'll do these continuously once a week with an occasional break. This episode we're calling the Master Model for Getting Paid Well for Your Expertise. From what I've seen, there is a dearth of simplicity. We humans want to believe that, on some level, we seem to want to believe that in order for something to be valuable, it has to be complicated. And if it's not complicated, there's a part of us that just wants to walk away from it. We turn our back on it. We reject it. It could have been really good, very valuable advice, but if it just seems too easy, too simple, we just don't want to accept that. We don't want to do it. So we go off, turn our backs. It's a very good advice, and we look for something more complicated. Now, the irony is that our brains seem to work just the opposite as well. Sometimes things are legitimately complicated. Political questions, societal questions, religious questions. These issues are complicated, they're complex. And usually each side has a legitimate point of view. They have some legitimate perspective, some good points. And what we need to be doing really is listening to each side, to dig deeper, to understand what's going on and make difficult decisions, make difficult trade-offs. But what happens is that a leader of this side gets up and oversimplifies things dramatically. Things, just takes this complicated topic and dramatically simplifies it. And there's about half of us who are like that. It fits with what we want to hear in one way or another. And we go and follow that very oversimplified approach. And then there's the other side, and their leaders do the same thing. They also oversimplify something very complicated. And the other half of people follow that side. Of course, we're simplifying what happens, but this is pretty much what happens. And we're all guilty of this. Like, we all humans oversimplify certain things that are very complicated. That's how we can deal with it. It's unfortunate, of course, because what we really need to do is listen to each other, listen to people with a different perspective. Nobody knows it all. Nobody's mastered it all. Nobody has all the answers. Listen to each other. And instead of driving, going opposite sides and drawing a line, listen to each other, compromise, negotiate, come to something better. So the main point that I'm making, though, is that there are some really simple things that we tend to overcomplicate, and there are some very complicated, complex things that we tend to oversimplify. And the challenge is, how do we get it right? Right? When it's complicated, we need to honor it for the complexity that it is. And when it's simple, we need to just accept that it's simple and run with it, make it work for us. How do we do that? So the approach that we take, and we apply this specifically to the both simple and complex area of creating a consistent flow of ideal clients. The approach that we take is the approach prescribed by Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. When he said, "I wouldn't give a fig for simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give my right hand for simplicity on the far side of complexity." I think that's brilliant. I think it's really brilliant. As I see it, there's a continuum, right? On the left side, the far left, we begin with oversimplified. Things tend to be oversimplified, all right? And this is what happens when you start a business. You start to think, well, it can't be that hard, right? It can't be that hard. I'm really good at what I do. People like me, or some people like me, or not everybody hates me, but I'm really good at what I do. I'm very good at what I do, and people will see how good I am. They'll see that I care, and therefore they will flock to me and want to work with me. And we think that we get started on some level. We think it'll be easier. We start doing certain things, and maybe you have some beginner's luck, maybe not. At some point, though, you realize this is not going to be as easy as I anticipated. This is not going nearly as fast as I hoped. And what happens is we move from the far left of the continuum into the center. The center is complexity. We've gone from oversimplified to overcomplicated, deep complexity. At the complicated stage, the complexity stage, this is where you suddenly find yourself lost in the weeds. You're lost in the fire. You can't see the forest for the trees. Can't see the forest for the trees. Yeah, I think I got it right. And it's all the details. It's the conflicting advice. It's the competing priorities. It's the overwhelm. It's that this one tells you this, that one tells you that. Everybody's got different advice, and there's no way you can possibly follow all of it. And all you really want anyway is, what do I need to do to build my business, to create a consistent flow of ideal clients? And the sad thing about the complexity stage is that you can get stuck in the overcomplicated stage, not just for days, not just for weeks, not just for months, but years, decades. There are people who sadly spend decades of their life going in circles, lost in the weeds. And it's really unfortunate and it's unnecessary. There are, however, a few who push through. They make it from oversimplified to overcomplicated, and they push through almost always with the help of a mentor, with the help of a coach, with the help of somebody who's mastered what they're trying to master. They make it to simplicity on the far side of complexity. That's how I see it. That's how I understand what Oliver Wendell Holmes Jr. says when he says, I wouldn't give a fig for simplicity on this side of complexity, but I'd give my right hand for simplicity on the far side of complexity. And that's where you find mastery. That's where you find a consistent flow of ideal clients. And the thing is, how do we get there? How do we know whose advice to trust? How do we know if we're working on the right thing? How do you know if you're going in the right direction? We're going to talk about this through the rest of the show. If you're on this show, I am assuming that you've somehow benefited from some of the excellent free material and training that we give out, that we distribute through the internet, our email list, and beyond. And if you've benefited from some of the excellent free material and training, there's only one thing that I ask in return, and that is help us get our excellent free material and training out to more people. There are so many millions of smart, talented, capable people out there who are struggling to really build a thriving, profitable business on the back of their expertise, consulting, coaching, expertise-based business. And, I regularly get emails from people thanking me for the manual we gave them, or this or that webinar, this recording, and so on, because the quality is what it is. In some cases, it's dramatic and life-changing. In some cases, it's, still progress, an important breakthrough. And so if you've benefited in any way, just let's help me with just get this to more people. If you're listening on the Facebook page, facebook.com/consistent flow of clients, you should see the stream, click the share button. Share this stream on your page, share it in a group that you belong to where maybe there are some other experts, consultants, coaches, others who could benefit from what we're talking about, so that we get some more of this really good quality training out there. Leave a comment underneath it. Ask a question. I'll get to questions later on, hopefully. And all of this is really just a way of passing forward something that you found beneficial, I hope. All right, so let's go back to the main topic. All right, the main topic is we're going to talk about the master model for getting paid well for your expertise. Now, as I started to say, if you've mastered anything, then you already know that the idea of a model is to take a complex topic, a complicated subject, and frame it in a way that simplifies it. And if the model is a good one, then it helps you get to simplicity on the far side of complexity. It helps you understand something that you didn't understand before. It takes information or knowledge and helps you understand it, helps you see things more clearly. If the model is it's not as good, then it oversimplifies, right? If it's a good model, it takes you to simplicity on the far side of complexity. A poor model takes you to oversimplified. And what happens is it makes you think you understand something, but when you go out and you actually start to do something about it, it doesn't work. And that's when you start to realize there's something I'm missing. There's something I'm missing. Now, the model I want to share with you, there's no single model that can encompass or speak for everything. That's just a given. There's no one model that answers everything. It would be nice, but there isn't. So the model I'm about to share with you is a high-level model that will help you more clearly identify where you're getting stuck in your efforts to build a thriving, profitable business on the back of your expertise as some kind of coach, consultant, or expert. Now, if you're looking at a map, we all know, right? If you're looking at a map and you want to get somewhere, you've got to know where you are. You've got to start where you are. It's the same idea as when we say that the first step to solving a problem is to accurately identify the problem. So here it is. This is what it looks like. Those of you who are fans of our sticky notes, we do have a one sticky note slide for today. The first level, number one, is a clear goal. Now, I know before you groan and say, oh, I know I need goals. Everybody knows they need goals. Well, here's the thought on that. Everybody knows they need goals. I remember this is one of the first things that I learned, you know, and probably the first personal development self-help book I came across as a teenager. You got to have goals. It's in you know, Think and Grow Rich. You need a burning desire and so on. Everybody knows this, right? However, almost nobody has a clear goal, especially those who've rushed right past it. This is one of those simple bits of advice that we think it just can't be that simple. We think I already know it, and then we keep running. Well, I'm going to share with you a little bit later. My hope is that as we proceed, you'll be able to see more clearly that you might have clear goals. Some of you surely do. You might have clear goals. On the other hand, you might think you have clear goals, and that might be precisely where you're getting stuck, because you don't know exactly where you are, and you're trying to follow a path of the map, but you're actually somewhere else. You think you're here trying to get here, but you're actually here. And that's why you find yourself going in circles. Part of the problem is the way we're taught to think about goals. So in short, the first part of this model, if you're going to build a business where you're consistently being well paid for your expertise, you need clear goals. Now, the second thing is you've got to understand the rules of the game. The rules of the game, or the underlying structure of the game you're going to be playing. An example that I like to use is surgery, right? If you're a heart surgeon, you've got to understand the underlying structure of the domain that you're playing in or working in. You've got to understand the rules. You've got to understand. And the rules, the underlying structure that of the domain you're playing in, let's say your clear goal is to, you know, achieve a certain success as a heart surgeon. That's your goal. Now you've got to understand the domain. The domain, the underlying structure, the rules of the game are those governed by human biology. Human biology in general, the heart, of course, in particular, but that affects everything. Everything affects that, I guess. And you need to know the biology of the person lying on the operating table in front of you in particular. So you've got to understand the rules, the structure in general, human biology, and you've got to understand the person in front of you. That's why you spend 8, 10, 12 years in school studying in general. And that's also why you run all sorts of tests and scans on the person in front of you before you cut them open. You've got to understand the terrain. What are the rules of the game you're going to play? It's the same thing if you want to start a high-tech startup and you plan to take it public. You want to raise $100 million or $100 billion. You've got to understand the rules of the game. And one of the problems, as we'll see as we proceed, that you're not really clear, not as clear as you think you are on the goal that you're after. And number two, you also don't understand the rules of the game, the underlying structure. Of course, that makes sense because you're not completely sure. There's of course, a relationship usually. The third thing in this model, the third stage, is you've got to have a plan that you believe in. A plan, a process that you believe in. And here's another area that so many of us struggle. Now, I have to assume if you're looking to build a business on the back of your expertise, you've mastered your craft, you're really good at something, and that's fantastic. However, what happens is though, if you master your craft, let's say surgery, right? You went to school and learned things in a systematic way, just like we're talking about. In all likelihood, when it comes to building a business on the back of your expertise, you're probably not learning the marketing and selling of your expertise the same way you learned your craft. Here's what happens when it comes to marketing and sales for most of us, is you start off in the oversimplified stage, and you're moving towards you find yourself in the overcomplicated stage. Things get complex very quickly. What happens is that you turn around, hey, I need some help. What do I need to do? How do I market my expertise, my business, my consulting, my coaching? How do I do that? And we quickly find ourselves lost in overwhelm of conflicting and confusing information, overwhelming information, so much of what to do, all sorts of advice. Now, somehow or another, you pick somebody. You buy their blueprint, marketing blueprint, client, whatever they want. You buy it, you go to the workshop, seminar, join a coaching program, whatever it might be, and you try to follow their advice. The problem is that there's this sense, as you try to follow the plan they tell you to follow the process they tell you to follow, you figure, all right, I'll do what they're saying, but there's some part of you that doesn't feel comfortable. There's something that is missing, something that you don't really believe in it. You don't really believe in all the things that you're being told to do. There's something missing. And you know why? If you're a surgeon, what's the plan? Well, it's the plan, the process of heart surgery, whatever that is, right? I don't pretend to know. But I imagine it's a complicated, plan, process with many steps and contingencies. Things could go wrong. When it comes to marketing and selling your expertise, you need a clear goal. You need to understand the rules of the game, the underlying structure, which is not human biology, it's human psychology, also very complex. And you need a plan that you believe in for interfacing with the rules of the game, the underlying structure, the human psychology. With a surgeon, they've got their plan for interfacing with human biology. To marketing and selling your expertise, you've got to have a plan for interacting with human psychology. Now, what happens is, as a surgeon, if the plan is devised based on a deep understanding of the rules of the game. When it comes to marketing and selling, is the plan being devised based on a deep understanding of rules of the game? Usually not. That's usually why you're following a plan or a process that someone feeds to you and says, just follow these steps and you'll be rich like I am. It's usually why it doesn't work for you. And there's a lot we can say about that as well, but we're giving a quick overview today, and we're going to go deeper into part of this. And in future episodes, I'll be showing you how we'll be zeroing in on very specific aspects of what's involved in creating a consistent flow of ideal clients, and touching on all sorts of things, such as that sales is leadership, and all the other things that we tend to talk about. And I'd love to hear from you guys what you want me to talk about, dealing with specific questions and so on. And each of these fits somehow, somewhere under one of these, one step in the model, right? And the idea of this is, as I'm going to show you, it really helps you spot where you're getting stuck. It always helps you identify, okay, where is my constraint? Where's my bottleneck? And that's where you need to focus. So we're talking about a plan that you actually believe in. So what happens is that after you know your goal and you understand the rules of the game, and then you've developed a plan you actually believe in, as opposed to probably what you've had until now, then, probably don't try not to shake this too much, then the next step is tools and skills. To follow a plan or a process, you need to learn how to use the tools. If you're a surgeon, you've got your surgery tools, your scalpel and whatever else you do, and how to stitch and you need the skills, right? So you need the tools and the skills. Here's what happens though. Here's what happens when it comes to creating a consistent flow of ideal clients. So many people, they're not really clear on what they're trying to achieve, and we'll come to that. They don't really understand the rules of the game in this domain. They sort of kind of do, but it's never really explained to them clearly the way you learn it in medical school. So you're trying to follow a plan you don't really believe in, but you know what? We jump into the tools and the skills. We're focused on the Facebook ads or whatever these tactical things, whatever happens to be of fashion, webinars or whatever it might be, Twitter. I mean, it's endless. We know that. So this is a big part of the problem, is that there is so much focus on the fourth part when there isn't much of a foundation in place. And this is why people run around in circles in the overcomplexity, because when you can't see where you're headed, you can't see the big picture where you're going, Of course it's overwhelming and overcomplicated. Number 5, around, above, below, all around everything else is what we call mental toughness. Mental toughness, as I think about it, really means this. Mental toughness just means that you're focusing your mind, you're keeping your mind focused on what's true, on the reality. Because if your mind is focused on the reality, on what's really true, then you feel good, you feel energized, and you're able to do what you need to do. What happens is that we are mentally weak, mentally soft, and our mind wanders to all these things that can go wrong. Instead of thinking about what we want, we end up thinking about all the things we don't want, all the things we fear. And we start worrying and imagining, and then we don't do what's in front of us. We don't take the step forward. So this is what I see as the master model for being well paid for your expertise. Number 1, you've got to have a clear goal. Number 2, you've got to understand the rules of the game. Number 3, you've got to be following a plan that you actually believe in, a plan that is built on a deep understanding of the rules of the game. Number 4, you've got to master the skills. You got to know how to use the tools and master the skills involved in using those tools so that you can follow the plan or the process you believe in. And before and after and all throughout, you've got to be exercising your mental toughness muscles. Now, I want to take a closer look at number 1, this whole idea of clear goals. As we said earlier, me, like you probably, one of the first things that I learned as a teenager, who discovered the self-help section in the library, was set goals. You got to have a goal. And for so long, I brushed it aside thinking, yeah, I know what I want. I know my goals. So what's next? And looking back 23, 24, 25 years later, I realized that this is one of those areas, like I said earlier, that we tend to ignore because it seems so simple. We think we know what we want, but usually we don't. What's usually happening is we're oversimplifying this whole idea of knowing what we want. And so we get caught up in the overcomplexity of it, the overcomplication of it. And we never make it to simplicity on the far side of complexity. And you'd think that the easiest question for a person, a human being, to answer is, what do you want? But it turns out it's one of the most difficult questions for us to answer, for most of us. And we all get those emails, the flood of emails in November and December about goal setting for the new year. And you would probably do some version of it. And sometimes you get excited about it, but not year after year if it doesn't follow through. Probably felt incomplete, hopeful maybe, but not convincing. You didn't expect it. And when you ask somebody what they want, usually what we find, and you probably found this in your work with your clients, that most people don't tell you what they want. You ask them, for example, what do you want? And I hear often something to the effect of, I want to not to have to worry about money anymore, right? Right? Isn't that what you want? You want to not to have to worry about money anymore. That's actually the driving force of most consultants, coaches, experts. They want to not to have to worry about money anymore. That's not what you want, right? Maybe this is something we can go into more deeply some other time, but you need a better driving force. You need to focus somehow on the contribution that you want to make, not so much on what you're afraid of. Can you see that? If that's, and what happens is we're often sitting down, coming to the office, sitting down at the desk, and what is the thought that occupies your mind more than almost anything else? It's this worry about money. You're not focused on what you're trying to create. You're not focused on how you can contribute more. Yes, you are to some degree. To some degree, all these things are, of course, a part of what you're doing. It's not black or white. If it was, this would be a very simple topic. But when we talk about, do you have clear goals? We're looking for, you've got to push through the complexity to get to simplicity on the far side of complexity. You've got to be mentally tough, because here's what happens. Once in a while, every now and then, someone does tell you what they want. They do know what they want. Often they're not really telling you. They're not telling you what they really want. They're telling you what they think they can have. And there's a very big difference. Often I'll ask people, what do you want? Well, what's your goal? What do you want to be? And they'll say, well, I want to have 10 clients a month, paying X amount of dollars. So I guess that means that'll get me, I guess, $10,000 or $15,000 a month. That's what I want. Okay, how did you come to that? How did you come to $10,000 a month or $15,000 a month? Why 15? Why not 13 or 22? And the thinking goes like this. Well, I figure I could, if I work with, X number of clients a week, and I charge Y dollars for each client, then I need to have a life too. Still need to have some time for my family. And I can't only be working with clients. I need to have time for building the business. So I can probably work with X number. So that's where I came up with the number. Notice what this person is doing. They're not telling us what they want. They're telling us what they think they can have based on what they know how to do today. They're extrapolating forward. Today, I know how to work with clients in this particular way, and I charge this amount of money. So based on that, I should be able to, here's what I think I can have 6 months down the line, a year down the line. That's not what you want. That's what you think you can have based on your current levels of thinking about how to work with a client, about how to charge, what to charge. This, you got to become very sensitive to the fact that one of the most common thinking mistakes that people make is mixing up what and how. We don't know how. I mean, and then the person says to me, well, yeah, I guess you're right. I really want, I really want 350 to 500 a year, maybe a year or two down the line. I want 350 to 500. Why? Well, because, and that will give them the lifestyle that they want. That will enable them to help family members, to travel, to help their kids as they get older, marry them off, put aside money for retirement, pay off the mortgage. That's what they really want. And when you tell yourself that what you really want is 10 clients a month so that I can but that's not what you really want, how does that feel? It doesn't feel very good. So when you sit down to work and you tell yourself you want something, but it's not, yourself knows better than you that's not really it. It doesn't feel very good. So nothing, like everything else is on quicksand. Nothing else is going to work. I mean, can you see that? So that's one of the big problems, is that we don't really know what we want. We think we know what we want, but we don't. Even if you do know what you want, many people do get to that point, but they forget about it. They tend to forget about it very quickly because we sit down, we put in the work that most people don't to get clear and to re-clarify what we want, but we forget it. Goes out the window, gone. Right? When we sit down, so we end up pretty much in the same place. We sit down reacting to emails and pressures and fires and whatever, but we're not working clearly towards what we want. So if it's not front and center, if you're not constantly focusing on what you want, you're not going to be able to build the process, the plan to get there. You're not going to focus on mastering the rules of the correct domain and then building the process, the plan, and mastering the right skills and using the right tools. And all of this is an aspect. Getting really good at this requires exercising that mental toughness. Okay? And even those who do keep it front and center in their minds, there's still another problem. And that is they do it with a feeling, an emotion of doubt. Will this ever succeed? Will this ever really work for me? They don't have an expectancy of success. They don't expect it. That's an important aspect of the mental toughness that you've got to keep clear in your mind. Now, of those who do regularly remind themselves of what they want, most never learn the rules of the game. And then they're going off trying to follow a plan, a process, without really understanding the rules of the game, without really understanding the underlying structure. And that's why it doesn't work, because you're following a plan or process you don't really believe in. And in the end, you're spending most of your time on number 4, fooling around with all sorts of cool technology tools, mastering all sorts of skills, but not the ones that you actually, not your constraint. You're not working the bottleneck. So somebody once asked me, like, how do you decide what to read? And I realized I used to read way too much, really, because I used to tell myself I was studying. And then I realized I had to draw a line between studying something for business, meaning to help me break through the tightest bottleneck I was currently working on versus studying for pleasure. I enjoy learning new things, as you probably do as well, or you wouldn't be here. We have to draw a line. It's the same thing. It's the same thing with learning new skills and tools. We've got to draw the line. And the only way you draw the line is you identify what is the bottleneck, what is the tightest constraint. When we're not starting bottom up, when we're not following this process, we're not building according to this model, you get overwhelmed because everything ends up way too complicated. You get lost in the complexity of it because your plan isn't clear and you're not sure what to do first. So I want to challenge you to take a fresh look at the goal that you're going after. I want you to ask yourself, what do I want? Not right now. I mean, you could do it right now, but take some time, write it down. Write down anything you can think about. Don't write down what you think you can have. Write down what you really want, right? Anything you could dream of. I'm not saying you're going to have everything overnight, but this is the first step, and it's a really important step, right? Here's what we're after. You want to be crystal clear about what you want. Now, it doesn't mean you have to be crystal clear about every single detail. Again, this is an art and science, and nobody is necessarily going to, well, let's not go too deep down there. Make sure you know what you want and you're going after it, okay? And the next thing is mental toughness. Focus your mind on the truth, on the right things that you need to think about, so that when you wake up in the morning, you have a feeling of expectancy. You're expecting that you're going to succeed. And this also means, by the way, the goal has to be the right level. There could be a longer term goal, but then, you know, there's also an intermediate goal, which has to be the right thing. The whole idea of setting these big, you know, hairy, audacious goals is something else that confuses people. There's a place for that. We don't have time to go into this in any more detail today. But your goal has to be something you believe you can achieve, not a fantasy. There's a difference between the dream and the fantasy. The fantasy you don't believe in. The dream is what you know, that's what's inside. That's what you know you should be able to achieve. You're just not quite sure how. And notice that first what? First the dream, and after that, how. Now, we're going to take some questions. There's a few ways you can ask questions. I'm going to ask Miriam to help out. You can post a comment under the live stream on Zoom. And by the way, as soon as we finish, it will be available on Facebook. So if you found this to be helpful, once again, click the share button. Share this on your page. Share it in groups that you're a member of, where others can benefit from this. Help us get some of this really good material, in my opinion, and hopefully yours, to more people who may or may not realize they're looking for it. So there's also a Q&A. If you're joining us on the live Zoom broadcast, there's a Q&A box, a question answer feature. You can type that in there. And you can also raise your hand if you've joined us on the Zoom feature. I'll also say this, if you're listening on Facebook and you want to have an opportunity to possibly speak, depending on time limit, we don't have that much time left, then go to dovegordon.net/live show, dovegordon.net/live show, and it will take you to the page where you can join us on the Zoom broadcast. Now, while you're taking a minute to type in some questions, I do want to share this with you. And this overarching framework that I've shared with you today, this is just part of the thinking and the tools and the approach that we take with our clients in our Plenty of Clients 100-day sprint program, which is the main way that we work with most people today. And what I want to suggest is that if listening to any of this, you would like, you know, you're perhaps you want to talk and see if you're serious about adding $100,000 or more. If you're somebody who knows that you should be able to add $100,000 or more to your coaching, consulting, expertise-based business in the next 6 to 12 months, it could be a lot more. We have some people running 7-figure businesses as well. So obviously they're looking for more. Then go to dovegordon.net/chat. We also have people at the very beginning of their business because they want to build the foundation correct. dovegordon.net/chat is where you can fill in an application requesting a conversation, and I'd love to talk to you. Just fill this out, and then we'll get back to you about scheduling a time to talk. Actually, I think I think there might even be a calendar link on the other side of this. I forget. So dovegordon.net/chat is where you can go. I also want to share two images that I just grabbed. I blocked out the clients' names because I didn't even, did this right before this call. I didn't have a chance to ask them permission, and I didn't really want to. This is from inside our client forum, the private client forum. Whoops. So this just came in today, this morning, from a member of ours who's finished the 100-day sprint not too long ago. 3 yeses in a row. This has been the most amazing week. I got 3 easy yeses in a row from Elegant Sales Conversations for my 90-minute breakthrough session offer. 2 of the 3 even said yes before we talked about price. And she went on more. Well, let's just go back. I just want to share some of what's working. I'd love to start a thread elsewhere to share insights. We worked on that already. I'm on track to have my highest income month ever in my business this month, and I have you guys to thank. We, of course, love getting posts like this. Here's one more, which is from somebody shortly after she joined the 100-day sprint. This is somebody who's been in other programs, and every program has something to teach you. This is somebody who's also been disappointed, and one of our other members she's responding to one of our other 100-day sprint clients. Thanks, Bob. Bob, thanks. I'm almost through all the sessions. That's the training for the first time. Such an overwhelming sense of relief. I'm in the right place. And they were talking about meeting. So that's what it's that overwhelming sense of relief that you're in the right place. And we love this kind of feedback because this is why we do it. We focus, this is what we're looking for. Okay, so if you're in a place where you feel that we might be able to help you further, go to dovegordon.net/chat. If you see the value in this, in the training today, in today's, the Client Alchemy show, please share that on Facebook. All right, let's look to see what kind of Q&A we have, what kind of questions we have. Let me catch up here. Q&A. Do you have, Andre asks, do you have a system or framework for choosing when or how much to study for pleasure versus study for results, though? Thank you. Good question. It's really this. When you're the real system, the harder work, the work that you got to do, the process you need to follow is getting really clear continuously about what are your top priorities. What are your top priorities? What is your top priorities? And when you're really clear as to what the top priority is, what is the one thing that you could work on that, like throwing a stone in the water, in the lake, it creates a ripple effect. It creates it's leverage. If I work on this, it'll have a ripple effect across everything else I'm doing. Now, once you've identified your bottleneck, and we have, of course, processes, models, and so on that really refine this and really help to simplify this, so they get to simplicity on the far side of complexity and make that always clear. Then the answer is easy. Is that okay? Now, if this is what I need to figure out, then I just need to read enough to figure that out, or I need to take a course or get some coaching on that, whatever it might be. That's my bottleneck. So I hope that answers your question. If anybody else has any more questions, you can type that in. Let's see here. Miriam, just let me know, do we have questions in the chat box? Let's see here. Hello to everybody. We see we have some people from our coaching programs. Let's see here. All right, any questions here? No, let's look at any questions on. All right, we got some thank yous. Thank you, Ray, appreciate that. Hey, John. And thanks to all of you who did share this live stream, I appreciate it. And we look forward to the chance of continuing to serve you next week. So same time next Thursday. You can email me with topic suggestions or questions, dovegordon@dovegordon.net. And if you're not a subscriber, go to dovegordon.net/missing5. That's a good place to start. Missing, MISSING, the number 5. And that way you'll be alerted. You get some free training immediately, and you'll be alerted to the future episodes as the show continues. Holly asks, how do you build mental toughness? That's a good question. Well, if you define mental toughness as I'm defining it, which means keep your, keeping your mind focused on what's true, on the reality, as opposed to all the things you worry about. Keep your mind focused where it needs to be so that you feel energized and you feel excited and you want to take the steps that you're supposed to take. You want to take the actions you need to take. So if we define, if you accept my definition of what mental toughness is, I think it becomes easy. And that is, you've got to get clear, well, what are those thoughts? What are the thoughts that when I think those thoughts, when I remind myself of these truths or these beliefs, then I feel good and I do good. I feel energized. I feel optimistic, accomplished. I'm focused on contribution instead of worrying and instead of feeling overwhelmed. You've got to identify what those are, and you've got to write them down and review them on a regular basis. And I personally have a little notebook with a few pages of things that I thumb through on a daily basis. I keep it right on my desk. I don't read through all of them every day, but I'll pull out a few. And if anytime during the day, I have also later on in the notebook, we use it, I use this. Each day has a page. And I'll start by just reminding myself of a few things that I need to be reminded of so that I can get into the right mindset, mental frame, so that I can feel the way I need to feel, so that I can do what I need to do that day. I hope you found that to answer your question, Holly. Let's see. Frank says, not a question, but a suggestion. I really enjoy your Post-it notes. I find that I pay deeper attention when you show a hand-drawn note. Can you do more of those in the following sessions? Frank, if those of you who haven't seen our Post-it notes, Frank, thank you, Frank. I will certainly try to do that. It depends on how much time between full preparation and going live. All right, we're going to call it a day. We're just about at our mark. The goal is that we'll have these between 30 and 40 minutes. And thank you for joining us on the Client Alchemy Show, same time, 1 p.m. Eastern, next week, Thursday. Bye.